Hello, I'm Ann Beheeler. I'm the principal investigator for the IT Skills Standards 2020 and Beyond grant, and we're excited to talk with you today about strengthening your program with employer-led IT skill and employability standards. Co-presenting with me is Terrell Bailey of the Allison Group. Why are these skill standards important? Well, they're important because they provide a blueprint for how technical knowledge and skills are used in the workplace and how the workers' roles contribute to the company's success. They also make IT skills and careers more accessible to students and employers because they provide transparency regarding these skills and the performance needed to be successful. Business and industry want to hire students, by the way, who can integrate products, not just one vendor experts. Why are these skill standards important to educators? They're used to create relevant and aligned curriculum. And they're important to employers to improve communications about openings that they may have. Our purpose is to widen the pipeline of qualified IT workers in the nation. We are creating a contemporary and future-facing set of IT skill standards so that there's a bit of time before educators need to integrate all the new standards. And these are of assistance to both employers and educators alike. ITSS engages employers using the BUILT model. The BUILT model is a process that is the basis for our work with our employers regarding what they want our graduates to know 12 to 36 months into the future. And the employers are actually co-leading our work, not just advising. We started with thought leaders across the United States, approximately 100 of them. They were mostly CTOs, CIOs, CISOs, or someone else in the company who is responsible for keeping their company in business in the future. The goal was to identify 8 to 10 clusters of focus, and they were able to come up with 7 originally. The second set of thought leader meetings were held to identify the remaining 2 or 3 clusters, and we'll talk about what were the results of that meeting as we go along. Here are the clusters and the skill sets that have been identified. Initially, the group identified 7 different job clusters, and they have recently identified up to 6 different skill sets upon which we're going to focus. I will say that we're very pleased that the Texas Skill Standards Board has recognized the initial 6 completed job clusters and is distributing them throughout the state of Texas. Now, how did we execute the work during the cluster meetings? Typically, the project team compiled the pro forma, knowledge, skills, abilities, and tasks for evaluation using various sources, including any existing standards. Then the employers voted on those KSAs and tasks, and they discussed how the votes came out. They discussed the averages and the distribution of the votes. They could also add, change, and delete the wording on any of the items. The employers identified also the appropriate level of employability skills, and Terrell will talk about those later in the presentation. After the initial job cluster meetings, the project team synthesized the votes and the discussions across the various meetings. Then we held a verification meeting with the SMEs to verify the synthesis and also to get from them what they thought the key performance indicators would be for the tasks. Then the educator SMEs developed student learning outcomes after the verification meetings. And overall, just so you know, we have worked with approximately 200 different businesses on the first 6 job clusters. The components of each job cluster skill standards include the list of the tasks and KSAs with the averages from the SME meetings, the KPIs, the employability skill levels, and also the SLOs that were created by the educators. Now we're going to talk about how to access the skill standards. This slide is in the presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Christina Titus, who is our program director, to do the demo.
Hi, thank you, Ann. As you see here, this is our website. This is when you go to itskillstandards.org, this is the page that you will see when you arrive. The top bar of our website here, this white bar, will keep you up to date at a glance. It lets you know of the upcoming meetings, where we are in analysis and verification, and what has been posted. The newest posting goes at the bottom of the list here on the right, and they are clickable. As you scroll down on our website, you'll find a little bit of information about us, a little video about ITSS. We have a brochure, and then you can always email to join the efforts. Scrolling down gives you another opportunity to click to get to any one of our job clusters. And this here just gives you a little rundown of pretty much everything Anne just talked about. This is our process that we follow. And then at the end here is just a small snippet of the companies we've worked with on this project. We have worked with over 235 employer SMEs, and these are just some of the companies that we've worked with.
Christina, you might tell them why we can't list everyone.
Oh, absolutely. We do ask our employers, we do obtain their permission to utilize their information on our website and in reports, and they have the opportunity to opt out of that and remain anonymous. And some choose to remain anonymous just for business purposes and things like that. So that is why it's just a small snippet, is we respect the privacy and request of our employers that we work with. Let's just take data analytics and predictive modeling as an example of what you'll find. And they all look the same. All job clusters look exactly the same. So once you've seen one, you kind of know what to expect in any of the other job clusters you choose to click on. They all start out with a definition, as Anne said, of what the job cluster encompasses. What does it mean? We also give a little explanation about the voting and the process that we use here. As Anne said, we have a table here that shows each of the different components. Each one has a download capability. The KSAs are the only ones that you'll find that you can download PDF or Excel. We do that so that if you want to use the KSAs, you can download the Excel version and just run with it. But we'll click on the KSAs to kind of take a look at the website. When you click on the KSAs, you will actually get an explanation of what the votes mean and how do we get to this number. It also breaks down what a task, knowledge, skill, and ability is. And then below, you'll find that document. They are about 4 or 5 pages a piece, and it's all listed here in order. Student learning outcomes. Again, here's a snippet of an explanation of what it is. And then as you scroll down, you can see the entire document if you wanted just to look at it.
Christina, you might point out that in a given block on the student learning outcomes, there are several KSAs that map to several actual outcomes because there are some overlaps there.
Right. So K1 through K30, you can see these knowledge items here all relate to these student learning outcomes here on the right. So there could be a grouping that is related to a grouping of student learning outcomes. You'll see the same thing happens in the key performance indicators as well. So they're not one for one in mapping. It could be a cluster of, or a grouping of knowledge to a grouping of student learning outcomes or key performance indicators, which you'll see that next here on the key performance indicator slide. Again, we have an explanation of how we get to the key performance indicators. And you'll see here that they're grouped a little bit different. Now, these are just for the task. So you'll notice that the task here in the key performance indicators are in the exact same order as the task on the KSA spreadsheet so that it is a little easier to follow along. We'll go back and we'll take one last look at employability skills. And again, we give an explanation on how the voting works for employability skills. And then you'll get a nice little document with the levels. And you'll see here as an example, for self and career development for data analytics, only level 1 was voted as necessary. And so you'll just see level 1 where you see level 2 and 1 in other areas. If you wanted to download, it just pops up here. And then you can just go ahead and start utilizing this document as an Excel So if you decide you want to comment, you would click on sign in. And if you're new and you've not registered, then you would do a little two-step registration, just a quick your name, your email, where do you work, or your school, your title.
And while she fills that in, again, the reason we do this is we actually vet people who are going to be subject matter experts for us. And we also want to vet the people that are going to get in and make comments.
Well, I already kind of exist in the system. Let me just borrow a coworker's email. They would just ask you, are you an educator, an employer? Are you both? An educator, and then you would create a password and then confirm your password. And you would submit that after clicking You're Not a Robot. And if you have any issues, like Anne mentioned, we do have a video on how to register, any issues when you're registering. And then once you've been confirmed, you can come back and sign in, and then how do you comment? So you log in. I don't know my password, but you'll log in, and what you'll notice, go back into data analytics, is the sign in will then become the word comment, and you can click on it and it will give you a Google form that you'll have to you can fill out and add either vote on it that it's necessary, it's not necessary. You can request a wording change. You can say, hey, this is missing altogether. And then that feedback is sent to us, and the plan is quarterly, we'll go back and get this updated through the employer SMEs. Also, you can find information about our leadership team, which we are divided by area. We have a central, a West Coast, and an East Coast. And all of that information is here on our website as well.
Thank you, Christina. Now let's talk about using the IT skill standards. Here are some thoughts for you. For existing IT programs, take the KSAs, tasks, and the SLOs from the ITSS website and compare them to your curriculum that you're currently using. Also use the comparison as fuel for discussion at your next faculty meeting, and decide whether or not implementing some of the items might require new modules or tweaks or whole new courses. And then use the comparison to talk with your business and industry council, preferably a built team, but it could be typical business and industry council, to consider curricular updates. For new IT programs, you can validate or clarify the existing KSAs and tasks with your employers, and use the KSA process from the Convergence Technology Center to determine how curriculum might be created or adapted to implement a new program. Be sure to consider the labor market demand into the future, as new programs must have demand in the area for them to be constructed and obtain approval. I'd like to turn it over to Terrell Bailey now, who is our co-PI and is focusing upon IT employability skills. Terrell?
Thank you, Anne. So a bit about employability skills. Employability or workplace knowledge and skills, also known as soft skills, are necessary for every job in the US. Bus drivers, teachers, HR managers, football players, CEOs, everybody. And this has been determined through multiple studies that have been done to verify this. So our team went through multiple source documents with the validated documentation, and those included the National Skill Standards Board, the SCAN skills, the 21st century skills, and more. And we selected the employability knowledge and skills that most apply to the area of IT. There are 11 on the list, and you can see those on the slide. The KSAs and performance indicators describe particular level of work in a particular IT cluster. And since we know that the employability skills are verified as important for success in the workplace, employers don't really need to vote and rate their importance like they do with the KSAs. So the question becomes, what level is needed for the work specified by the KSAs? What level of competency in the employability area is needed? And what does entry-level work require in terms of proficiency with these 11 skill areas? We asked the SMEs to consider the level of proficiency that they expect of a person who had held an IT position for 6 months to a year. And we provide a proficiency scale. There's 3 levels. One's basic, 3's advanced. Each level is described by a statement of what the employability skill would look like if performed at a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3. The SMEs select the level required by the entry-level work. The responses are then averaged, and the applicable employability statements are posted with the KSAs and performance indicators that round out the skill standards for each cluster. And the employability skills are used by educators to inform curriculum and by industry to inform hiring, training, and performance reviews. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Terrell. Now I'd like to talk about some other opportunities for engagement. You can provide feedback on the skill standards that are already posted. You can apply to be an educator, subject matter expert for the upcoming skill set meetings. You can apply to be an employer SME similarly. And you can learn about how to use the skill standards to update your curriculum through webinars that we're presenting. Here's a slide showing you how to link to provide feedback and some videos to explain it. We won't talk more about it here, but you can use it at your leisure. Our next upcoming professional development is talking about how to use the skill standards to advance your IT curriculum. It's November 12th, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and here's the link. Thank you for listening to us today. Please feel free to contact us with any questions.